Welcome to Firewalls and Flashpoints, the weekly deep dive where we step into the digital trenches and map out the world's most dangerous geopolitical fault lines. Today, we are starting at Terminal 3 of Miami International Airport. Right at the border control desk, it's early June 2026. The World Cup is literally kicking off in a matter of days, and standing in line is a man Noma Atan. He is the 2025 African Referee of the Year. He has his official FIFA accreditation. He has a valid US travel stamped in his passport. He is about to make history as the first Somali referee to ever officiate at a men's World Cup. Until he hands his passports over. Hours of detention. Later, US Customs and Border Protection slaps him with a rejection, citing vague vetting concerns, and puts him right back on the plane back to Istanbul. His dream shattered. FIFA's response, a helpless shrug. They basically said, hey, we just run the tournament, but the host nation controls the gates. And it's not just him. The Iranian squad's core staff were denied visas. Iraqi strikers are being interrogated for 7 hours at the O'Hare. Even Scottish fans are getting their approved ESTAs revoked days before flying out. And this, listeners, is the flashpoint. This is the raw naked ego of a superpower on full display. It proves a brutal truth we talk about on this show all the time. International rules are complete myth. We pretend we live in a globalized community, but the minute a superpower wants to flex its muscles, it shuts the gate. Which brings us to the biggest, most expensive, but frustrating gatekeeper on earth, the United Nations. I am going to be honest with you. Looking at the news today, watching the US shield its allies from ceasefires, watching Russia veto resolutions condemning its own invasion of Ukraine, watching the UN issue nothing but strongly worded letters while smaller nations get crushed. I want to bring the bulldozers, turn the UN headquarters in New York into a shopping mall or some office space that actually have a purpose. Why are we paying for a toothless dog? The cynicism is 100% justified. When the main office, the UN Security Council, convenes an emergency session during a major war, what do we actually see? Is pure diplomatic theater, ambassadors rushing into the chamber late at night, passionate speeches for the rolling cameras, finger pointing, and then a permanent member raises their hand, drops the veto, the meeting is adjourned, and absolutely nothing changes on the ground. Because the system is rigged, it's the League of Nations all over again. It literally is history repeating itself, but with a more cynical design. Remember, the League of Nations collapsed in the 1930s because the warmongers of that era, Imperial Japan, Mussolini's Italy, Nazi Germany, just walked past it. When the UN was built in 1945, the victors of World War II said, we aren't going to fix the flaw where big powers ignore the rules. Instead, we are going to make a rule that says the big powers are above the law. And that's the veto power. Permanent 5 members, the US, Russia, China, the UK, and France. The UN didn't eliminate aggression. It just institutionalized a loophole so the 5 most dangerous militaries on earth could never be policed. They created an arena where the powerful do what they want and the weak suffer what they must. But here is why we can't just roll the bulldozers onto First Avenue in Manhattan. just yet. We have to look at the financial architecture of this machine. If we just shut the UN and tell every country to keep their money, who actually wins? Well, the countries who are paying into a broken system get their cash back. The UN's regular budget is funded on a sliding scale based on national wealth. The main UN majority shareholders are the United States. They count about 22%, China 15.2%, Japan 8%, Germany 6.1%. The United States and China alone bankroll over 37% of the core UN budget. If we defund the UN tomorrow, that money doesn't get redirected to build hospitals in the global south. It stays right in the treasuries of Washington and Beijing. The superpowers pocket billions and they lose absolutely nothing. They save money, but at least we stop pretending the UN is a shield holding down aggression because it's not. Fear of a bigger military is the only thing that holds down aggression. The UN is not a world government. It has no independent army or sovereign power. But if you flatten the top floor, the corrupt, paralyzed Security Council, you also flatten the basement, and the basement is the only thing keeping millions of people alive. The basement is the global infrastructure network, the World Food Program, and UNICEF, feeding over 100 million people a year in disaster zones where no private corporation will ever go. The UNHCR, managing refugee crises so entire regions don't completely destabilize, even the technical staff, the ICAO, making sure global aviation laws match up so a plane ticket bought in Nairobi actually works when you land in London. So, what we are saying is the superpowers use the humanitarian basement as a control mechanism. They fund the cleanup crew to keep the world from completely exploding, which keeps global trade moving and keeps them in control. 100% it's the ultimate soft power play, but for a smaller, less powerful nation, that basement is a shield. If we move to a world of pure bilateralism, where everything is just one on one deals, a smaller nation has zero leverage. A superpower can walk in and say, we will give you food and aid, but only if you give us your deep water spots. Vote with us on every global issue and let our tech companies harvest your data tax free. Take it or leave it. Without the UN hub, the illusion of international law vanishes and we are left with pure and diluted transactions. What happened to Omar at the Miami airport? What happens every time the Security Council zeroes out a peace resolution? It's all a reminder that we are living under a tyranny of gatekeepers. The UN isn't a global referee, it's just an arena where the powerful play chess. And that's the takeaway for today's episode. Believing the UN is a shield against war is dangerous because it breeds false sense of security. It's a deeply compromised, frustrating house, but until someone figures out a way to dismantle the corrupt war room at the top floor without collapsing the humanitarian basement, keeping the rest of the world afloat, the bulldozers are just going to have to wait. The next time you see an emergency UN Security Council session flash onto your screen, don't just look for justice, look for the majority shareholder locking in their investment. That's it for today's episode of Firewalls and Flashpoints. If you want to deep dive into the trenches of global power dynamics, hit that subscribe button, leave us a review, and drop your thoughts in the comments. Until next time, keep your firewalls high and watch out for the flashpoint.